So let me go ahead and introduce Anna Aurilio. She's a federal campaign director for economic security projects. She'll turn on her camera and her mic in a sec. She is an expert in direct cash policy on the Hill. She's been working to pass, really for the last couple of years since the pandemic hit in particular, she's been working on monthly or regular multiple stimulus checks. And she also has been working on the child tax credit permanency. I might need to make it so that Anna can turn on her video. Hold on just one second. Yay.
There I am. Hello.
Hi, Anna. I think I said Anna and it's Anna. I'm sorry about that.
All right.
How are you doing? It's lovely to see you.
Oh, I'm doing well. It's been quite the crazy day, week, month, year.
We are in the middle of it. We had, for the march on Saturday, we had a lot of members of Congress who were interested in participating, and all of that went out the door with how crazy things are on the Hill right now, trying to get some of the most important pieces of legislation passed that maybe has happened in my generation. So we're totally more than happy to have them stick to that. And but it's definitely been exciting to see what's been happening in the community. I would love to, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into where things are right now and kind of the work that is happening. But I think it'd be great to take a little bit of a step back and just look at 2021 as a whole, because it has been a huge year for direct cash policies. Maybe just like Michael Tubbs just said, even just a year ago, if somebody said this is where we were going to be, that millions of families were going to be receiving monthly checks, it kind of seemed unfathomable. So I'd love to hear a little bit more of what you think are some of those key moments that have happened that have gotten us where we are right now.
Yeah, and first, just huge shout out to Income Movement and the work that you all are doing to really just keep this going, right? So over the last year, as you heard from Mayor Tubbs and others, we went from a catastrophic place economy-wise, where and a catastrophic government and a catastrophic pandemic. And one of the few bright lights that came out of that was really an increased appreciation and support for the role of cash in terms of creating something that people could fall back on, creating a floor that would help people get through the year. And so the things, as we started out this year, right, first, we weren't even sure we were going to have a new administration because there were, violent insurrections in the Capitol, and we had a contested seat in Georgia. And cash actually played a huge role in that. I mean, when I started working on these issues 3 years ago, and Economic Security Project said, "Oh, do you want to work on a guaranteed income?" And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get that in Congress. So, we'll work on these refundable tax credits first. But I don't know how long that'll take." And then really to have us come to a point where in the fall of 2020 and in the early part of 2021, the control of the Senate actually at some level hinged on who was going to deliver the next round of stimulus checks to people. So that was kind of awesome, right? That really, Senator Warnock really just leaned into the issue of who was going to deliver for people. And by this point, the stimulus checks have become so critical to folks that, they flipped a red state in doing that. So that was pretty tremendous. That was really a moment where, we said, look, the opportunity has really changed here. And then with the American Rescue Package and, many of us have been the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit, and doing things to make the child tax credit more like a basic income for children, right? Making it monthly, making it advanceable, making sure that it got to all the kids, especially the lowest income kids who had been left out. All of those things getting into the American Rescue Package, again, I think it showed the growing power and popularity of cash. So those were key moments over the last, 8 to 12 months that I think really have shown us how far we've come.
And, for us that are in the space of basic income and are fighting for guaranteed basic income, we obviously see the CTC as a guaranteed income for families. It's how we talk about it internally. It's a lot of how different organizations publicly are wanting to promote it, so that it's kind of connecting the dots for all of the people out there in the world that don't think about or know about basic income. But I'm curious to understand, you work really closely on the Hill with a lot of other organizations who are kind of a coalition of organizations working on this, having lots of conversations with members of Congress. Are they thinking about this as a guaranteed income for families? Like how are they thinking about it?
It's a really good question. And I think where you sit depends on how you see this, right? So obviously all of us that see the guaranteed income as the ultimate goal that we're going to work towards, and probably quicker than anyone could imagine, right? We see it very clearly like that. And there's, another astounding thing that happened last year where there were several members of Congress, new incoming members of Congress, that actually very publicly ran on the concept of a guaranteed income. So we have way more champs now in the Congress than we ever had as well. So for all those people, they get it and they're embracing it. For a whole set of other people, they're more focused on, sort of a more poverty angle, right? Let's cut child poverty in half, and let's help end food insecurity for families with children, and that's all perfectly valid as well. And then there's another set of people that really want to frame this up as a middle class tax cut, right? This is the largest middle class tax cut in a generation for families, which is also true. So at the end of the day, because I'm an advocate in Congress, I care a lot about how people talk about things, but I also want us to actually win. And so if we can move people along for the whole set of reasons to actually make this permanent, and in so doing create a monthly guaranteed income for children, that is perfectly excellent, because I think then people will come along as they start to see the actual data and the benefits. So does that make sense?
No, yeah. I'm a little bit curious to know, are we still, I wonder, is the term guaranteed income or unconditional basic income, or any of those, are those terms that turn off a certain number of the, even on the liberal side, when you're having conversations, is it strategic to not talk about it in those terms with certain people, or, and go at it from that poverty side? Just understanding like your own strategy for the language, because obviously on the grassroots side, we send letters to our members of Congress all the time, and it's really helpful to understand from your perspective, like, how do you thread that needle or kind of dance that line?
Yeah, I think for some offices and some moderates, they are really a little bit afraid of the term guaranteed income and basic income, and I do think the polling has shown increasing support for those terms. So I think the thing that we've really tried to do is just focus on the impacts. Here are the number of children in your district that weren't getting this that will now get it. Here is the family, the single mom of 3 in Arizona, who is able to get the sports equipment for her kids so that her kid can now participate in sports that they couldn't ever before. Here's another family that's taking care of their elderly parents, and one of the adults has to stay home and take care of the kids and the parents, and this is just easing them. So to be able to put real faces on this and really explain people what it is, I think we'll start chipping away then at whatever stigma or negative might attach to the term basic income. But the reality is, Republicans really haven't gone after the child tax credit.
No.
Right? In fact, none of them voted for the rescue plan, but a bunch of them want to take credit for the monthly checks. So that is where the proof is going to be in the pudding, right? As more and more people get them, and as we see the benefits of it, I think we'll be able to insert the guaranteed income term into the conversation more and more. But I think for right now, we got to go with what works. And what works in my mind for the vast majority of congressional offices is just the people that are benefiting.
Yeah, that's right. I'd love to understand a little bit more. So you've been in the work, having the conversations. What are you seeing are those best strategies for moving forward, for how to build on and expand on where we are right now, so we can get more and more checks to people. Because we know, just like you said at the beginning, when I first came on the Economic Security Project, it was like, yes, guaranteed income, but right now let's just try to figure out EITC, because that might be where there's a little bit of leverage. Right. We've made these huge strides very quickly. Like what are you seeing is our best chances to keep the momentum going and expand recipients?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things on the child tax credit in particular. I think we've built like a very broad coalition of organizations, right? So that you can make the point that this is very good for families in rural areas. It turns out, rural areas benefit disproportionately because people tend to be lower income on this. You can make the case, for example, that we're writing a historic racial inequity, because until the American Rescue Package happened, the child tax credit left out 27 million children from getting the full credit who are low income or no income. And those children are disproportionately Black and Latino. In fact, about half of Black children and about half of Latino children were left out of the full child tax credit before the rescue plan, compared to, depending on who you talk to, about a third or a fifth of white children. So that's actually redlining for children, right? And so I think that's a really important point for folks to understand, that if we're going to move forward and have a racially equitable recovery, we have to keep it going to people at the bottom end of the income scale. So that's one tack, right? Is let's have the coalition as broad as we can so that everyone who benefits can be part of this. Because the flip side of the equation is there's not really a lot of people who are opposed to the child tax credit per se, but there's a lot of moderates who are worried about the cost. And the reason they're worried about the cost is because this package, this Build Back Better package that includes an expansion of the child tax credit and hopefully permanent, and the earned income tax credit, it's supposed to be paid for by making wealthy people and corporations pay their fair share. So you have every corporate lobbyist, every large donor, going to their congressional offices saying, don't raise taxes on me. And this is where I do think the work that the income movement has done and so many other community organizations putting a real face and really being the lobbyist for working class and lower income folks, that is going to be critical, right? Because it is time for the wealthy and corporations to pay their fair share, many of whom pay very, very little compared to what most people pay, or zero. And so it's time, as Congresswoman Gwen Moore has famously said, it's time to stop pretending we don't have enough money. We have plenty of money in this country. It's time to get it to the people that need it the most. So I do think that's the strategy that is going to, win the day, right? Is just overwhelming coalition of people on the ground, but really raising our voices. Because I have to say, I was even talking to a really sympathetic ally yesterday in the Senate, and they were like, look, we have every single business in our state that thinks their taxes are going up coming to talk to us, every single one separately.
Boy, we gotta have the balance there so that they're hearing from people who are benefiting from this, which is a great maybe segue into the last piece. What is the role of grassroots, the grassroots community in this work, and what have you seen that has been kind of most successful or have highest impact, so we can make sure collectively we're all kind of focused in the right direction?
Yeah, I'll say two things. One is pretty detailed, right? Which is, this was a new program, right? We took something that was an annual tax refund that left out a lot of people that needed to get it and turned it into a monthly advance payment. And so there's a lot of outreach that needed to happen and education that needed to happen, and making sure that this program actually starts on time and gets out and reaches the people. And it hasn't been smooth sailing, right? There's still people that aren't getting it. People who don't usually file taxes, they're not connected to the tax system. So I think one role that grassroots organizations can play is just educating your members, showing people how they can get it, how they're eligible for it. And as time has gone on, the whole system of doing it has gotten better. But again, it's not quite there yet. So outreach and making sure people actually get their money is really important. And then the second part of that is let's turn all of that energy and excitement, and let's turn all of the people who already understand the power of monthly cash and how it can create a floor for people, how it can help people improve their health, their financial stability, their mental and physical health, how it can give you more agency and self-determination, right? You have the opportunity to really make choices. You could get an internship that will lead you to a better job. You could pay for additional childcare so that you can take classes. All of those things, it's just freedom and independence to be able to make your own choices. I think all of that needs to be translated into the decision makers who are otherwise just hearing from the corporate lobbyists saying, don't raise my taxes. So.
Okay, so making phone calls, writing letters, showing up to offices. We all have, people in larger cities actually have congressional offices often in their communities. Some are still not open with COVID, but there's lots of things that you can do. You're allowed to go into an office and say, hey, I'm a constituent and I have something that I want you to be aware of. So there's so many different things that we can do, and love hearing that some of the work that we've all been doing is the right kind of work, but helping, I think the people who are receiving the child tax credit, we have a whole new base of people that can become activated around this. And so making sure we're doing our part to be those deep advocates and, bringing new people in so that they know that they have an opportunity to fight and make sure that this continues and is made permanent. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Anna. Really love being able to chat with you. Always love hearing you. It's any meeting that I'm in and you start talking about what's going on, I'm like, tell me, Anna, tell me what's going on. You always lay it out so well. So I really appreciate that you took some time with us tonight. And we'll continue to be part of the coalition, and bringing ESP and the work you guys are doing to the grassroots, because I think this next year is going to be pretty critical. So.
Thank you. You all have been incredible partners. And I mean, we are in the thick of it right now, right? So this is a make or break moment to get this whole thing over the finish line, and so grateful to be working alongside you in this work, because it's been amazing to see.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.